So I'm not remote right now, but yes, usually I am remote. And it's great to work at Chef. I mean, I'm on the road all the time, talking with the community, helping people learn Chef, do Chef. It's awesome.
How many people work there now?
It's right around 300.
Yeah,
probably just under.
What'd you say? Sorry.
That's all right. Right around 300.
Oh, nice.
Just so you know, we are live.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just chilling. We're gonna make sure everybody can hear us before we do the official start, get the site message updated, all that kind of good stuff. So we'll do an official start where we go crazy here in a second. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I was already joined, guys.
And we can do an announcement. We can talk about how people are just chanting for Terry.
Can't help it.
I feel like we're going to. Let me make sure that this is. People want a pet Terry Cox is what it sounds like. We're just doing a quick check, everybody. It's not the official start. Tell us what's going on this morning. We're getting ready to officially start. We just want to make sure we hit the click live button and everything was updated and people had the opportunity to join us and all of that kind of good stuff. So we're getting ready to start. Today we got lots of announcements and some special guests as well. I'm just making sure that the button works as expected. Seems to be working now. All right. Got to get that last cup of coffee drink in, fix the microphone, and then we'll hit that official start button. Official start button. Let's see here.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, what's up, Will?
Not a whole lot.
I've been asked to make an appearance. All right, Terry's just going to do the show for me today.
Backed by popular demand.
I was asked to make an appearance. Here I am. Somebody asked for me in chat. I'll be back later to talk about some cool stuff.
All right, you guys are being too nice to Terry in this live chat. Okay. Oh, those are for you? Yeah. I think we're about ready to start. I think we're good. Got some people going. All right. Chat's going. Is everybody ready? Good morning. I'm ready with my coffee. Oh, there's Kylix.
Good morning.
Are you guys ready on the show for me to turn on my recording voice?
I'm ready.
Go DJ. All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Kind of. Can you turn up your mic a little bit? What up, Eric? You just hopped on, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Is that any better?
No, it's exactly the same.
All right. How about now?
It's exactly the same.
I've got the gain cranked all the way up, so
that's all right. We'll work with it. Is everybody ready? Here we go. We're getting ready to do the official start button. Coffee's kicking in. And welcome, everybody. My name is Anthony James, founder and CEO of LinuxAcademy.com. And today is our last live show of our biggest month in history. And today is probably going to be our biggest live show. We have so many people joining us, but we also have a special guest from Chef. Nathen on here is VP of Community of Chef. Just real quick, Nathen, why don't you just introduce yourself real quick?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, as you said, my name's Nathen Harvey. I'm VP of Community at Chef. And what does it mean to be VP of Community? Well, basically it means I get to run all over the world and meet the community where they are, help them understand more about Chef, DevOps practices, and really just help people do more awesome as they're working. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Well, thanks for coming. I think what you were saying is that throughout this show, people who say wonderful things about Chef, I might be ad-libbing that, but I do love Chef. You have some vouchers that you might toss out a little bit.
Look, Chef is super awesome. There's no doubt about that. And of course, we have certifications. So we have some certification badges that you can get. Of course, you can learn and prep for those right on Linux Academy. And today during the show, we're going to be giving out a couple of vouchers for free exams. So if you have a question about Chef, want to make a comment about Chef in the live chat, go ahead and do that. Ask us the question. We'll get you the answer. Make a comment. Something that you've learned with Chef, or a reason why you love Chef, or even a reason why you hate Chef. Hell, we'll give you a certification badge exam for that. No problem.
Oh, so I mean, the VP of Chef is here, or excuse me, VP of Community on Chef. So, you know, sense that maybe we should anticipate a Chef launch today as well. So really excited about this. But let's go ahead and get rolling here a little bit. After working with marketing, we complex down. Spend a little bit of time, spend hours deleting slides from the live show to get to the meat and potatoes for all of our students. So again, real quick, I want to thank our entire training architect team. We have over 30 of them. The single coolest thing ever is we have 5 new training architects starting between Monday, which was yesterday, and next Monday as well. So we had 3 yesterday and 2 tomorrow. Next Monday, the coffee's still kicking in. And that includes, we have a security person that had started. We had a Linux person that had started, and another Azure person that has started. And I actually think they are inside of the YouTube chat right now. One of their names is Chad. I think he's advocating on some Azure in there. But let's go ahead and get right to the announcements. We have a lot to announce today. We want to talk to Nathen a little bit. We want to talk to all of our course authors. We want to answer questions. We want to have some fun. So let's just dive right into it and start with announcing our LPI DevOps engineer certification. Now, that is kind of a mouthful, and it's almost as complex as the course. Now, Travis, you're the one who built this course. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this, what they need before they take the certification? You know, do you need a prior LPI certification? What does the course teach you? Tell us everything about this, because this was a pretty intense course.
Yes, it is. And I have to warn everybody, I'm not exactly a morning person. So yes, it is a very, very broad course. It covers a lot of tools within DevOps. I think I lost count at around 20 concepts and tools that it covers. But just at a very high level, it covers things like Vagrant, Cloud Init, Packer, all kinds of Docker stuff, Kubernetes, Jenkins, and even some software development stuff like REST, software as a service. And then we get into Logstash as well as Prometheus. So there is a lot of different stuff. It's pretty intense.
So can you tell us about, maybe as you're going through this course and you're spending some time, are you using the Linux Academy cloud servers? Can you talk a little bit about the hands-on part that is associated with this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yes, you will be using, there's quite a bit of labs. I think I have 13 labs available for this course. Some Ansible stuff. You're going to be using your cloud server for a lot of stuff. There's only one section where you really can't replicate it within the cloud server, which is when we start talking about Vagrant box files and using, oh geez, what is it? Crap, I can't remember what it is. But anyway,
it happens.
It's something that I can't install on one of the cloud servers. I had to run things locally off my my local machine. So.
Well, that's awesome. And you've been working on that just for the past 3.5 months. It's probably
yes.
This is one of the harder ones or more intense ones that you've had to build since being here at Linux Academy.
Definitely. Mainly because it covers so much. And this is, as far as like prerequisites for this course, you can't be a beginner going into this exam because of how much stuff it covers. You really should be familiar with Jenkins, Docker, Vagrant, all the stuff I've been listing off. This is a pretty intense course, and it's definitely not for beginners.
Hey, Nathen, are you there still?
I sure am.
You know, one thing I really like about Chef and even their certification stuff is they look at it and they look at it and they're kind of doing it badge-like, right? And, and it takes a lot of certification principles, or excuse me, DevOps principles towards those certifications. Do you want to talk a little bit maybe about the thought process behind it, or how as a practice, as a company, Chef really focuses on DevOps?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, DevOps is about tooling, but it's also about the culture. And there's a whole lot that you have to learn outside of just the tooling. The best way to learn that is to put your hands on the keyboard, to get in a room with your coworkers, start collaborating, start building, start testing, start learning, start experimenting. Like, you've got to do the work. And Chef, really, like when it comes to our certification, yes, we did take a badge approach because there's a couple of different roles that you have when you're working with Chef, right? You might be a server administrator, you might be someone that's writing cookbooks all the time. And if you're writing cookbooks and need to work on pipelines to get those cookbooks out to your production environment, what you probably don't care about is how to manage your Chef server on a regular basis. Or maybe, there's just different roles. And so we figure putting together some badges and some paths through those badges to different certifications, like that's the right way to go.
So if you were going to give advice to somebody who has a little bit of Linux knowledge, loves, this kind of DevOps mentality or philosophy, and wants to really get into configuration management and maintaining state, how would you suggest, or what would you kind of suggest to them in general?
Yeah, I think the first thing to think about is, look, you're going to start automating those systems. It's fun to build systems by hand, but I'll tell you what, it scales so much better when you start automating those systems. And that really means that we as system administrators and folks that are just getting started with this have to also bring in some of those more software development techniques and practices, things like putting your code into version control systems, things like testing your code, things along those lines. And so I think it's really great. We have the Chef Fluency, the Chef Basic Fluency is a great place to start. That's the first badge that anyone gets, regardless of which path you're on. You start with the Chef Basic Fluency. That's going to give you, the vocabulary, the terms, and some high-level exposure to everything about the Chef ecosystem.
What's kind of funny is having written Chef and done a lot with Chef, and actually a lot of our infrastructure at Linux Academy has a Chef component for maintaining the state. It's tied into some auto scaling and really cool stuff that we've developed there. Well, not developed, but utilize. But, one of the things that, having taught the Chef Fluency badge course at Linux Academy, or the first one, there's always a lot of question of, but I need to understand and learn Ruby first. And I wish maybe I don't always communicate it best, because I just don't think you do, specifically when it's talking about, just building some of those resources. Now, if you want to extend it and write custom resources, it still doesn't even require necessarily super depth of Ruby knowledge. Do you want to speak to that at all, or anybody who might be a little intimidated by that Ruby component?
Yeah. Can I just call BS? How about that? Like you don't need to know Ruby to write Chef. It is absolutely best if you've had some experience with some sort of programming language. But if you can understand, some basic constructs, if statements, maybe a loop, something along those lines, and look, you're going to learn the syntax pretty quickly. And the thing that you shouldn't focus in on as you're getting started is, what are the specific Ruby idioms that are here? There's plenty of sample code out there. Start by utilizing that sample code. Start by reading other people's code. That's the best way, I think, to learn the syntax of a particular language. Go ahead.
No, please keep going.
I was just going to say, you absolutely don't need to be a Ruby programmer. It's great just to get started. I think that, as you mentioned, as you go deeper and deeper into extending Chef, sure, over time, you're going to pick up more Ruby. But guess what? You're going to pick it up as you've learned other skills within Chef and within Ruby itself. So that learning curve, you can look at it as a long, slow slope. It's not this brick wall that you're going to run into immediately.
It's almost just utilizing the Ruby style of syntax for configuration files almost when you're writing it. You define a resource. It's just a configuration.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk a lot about Chef today too, as we talk about our DevOps stuff, LPI DevOps. This is really exciting. This was one of our most requested courses. And what I want to do is come back to the fact that this, Travis and Terry, if I believe I'm correct here, they announced this certification in March. And just 3 months or so later, we launched the certification here. Now, that is a pretty intense thing. When you look at Linux Academy, because you get the hands-on labs, you get the videos, you get the flashcards, you get the practice exams. It takes about 3 months to build this type of course. So the fact that it was delivered, just turned around like that is really the best case you're going to get. Anybody who delivers it faster than that, it's not going to be to the quality and standards to really help you understand the concepts and learn them in order to pass an exam. Now, Linux Academy, we don't do exam dumps. We like to train to the level at which the exam expects, which means you're going to get in there, you're going to get hands-on, you're going to deploy this stuff out, and you're going to learn how to do it, not just be paper certified. So Travis, that is super awesome on this course. This is really excited. I'm going to be really excited to go on our Linux Academy idea board and mark this off for the community as being one of the highest requested ones. So let's keep going.
Awesome.
On our next announcement, is, Will, why don't you talk about the certified Jenkins engineer updates that you've given to the course and why we've chosen to put updates in the course instead of necessarily rebuilding the whole thing?
Yeah, so our certified Jenkins engineer course has gotten a little out of date. In fact, the exam is a little bit out of date with the technology. So there's a lot of hiccups that have kind of developed recently. There's a lot of things that have tripped a lot of students up, and we've gotten a lot of feedback about that. So basically what we did was we went in and kind of made some target updates to kind of try to hit some of those areas that have been causing students a lot of problems to make that course, run a little smoother and help the students succeed a little more. And the reason why we haven't completely refreshed the course is because we're expecting the new version of that exam to come out fairly soon. So as soon as that comes out, I imagine we'll be building an entirely new course around that new version of the exam.
So I think it's probably important to clarify when you say outdated. The course itself is going to teach you the concepts to use the version of Jenkins that the exam covers. What you're saying, though, is that Jenkins has since been updated, but they have not yet necessarily updated their exams. They're actually expected to announce that, I think, in the next 30 to 60 days. So I'm looking at Terry. September, October, which is then going to probably have the latest versions, which is when we'll revamp all of our stuff. Now, remember, we like to train to the level at which the exam expects. It's not exam dumps. However, we can't train you to help qualify you for an exam on the newest technology if it's not covered. Same thing applies to AWS. The amount and pace of innovation that actually occurs outpaces most of the exams. And actually, that's one thing about Chef is having that, being able to work with Chef and whatnot, we can see that they're always kind of updating their exams to make sure that they stay on top of the latest Chef version and latest methodologies and principles on there. So that's the details about the Jenkins course. And you've seen Will. Will, you also launched another course this month, didn't you? Why don't you recap that for us real quick?
Yeah, the other course I launched was implementing a full CI/CD pipeline. And that course basically just takes you in a very hands-on way through a variety of tools to kind of manually build out your own CI/CD pipeline and kind of learn how all the tools work and how they fit together.
Now, you are a hardcore DevOps culture person, right? And as Nathan mentioned before, DevOps is a mixture of, obviously you have tools to implement those culture principles, but you also, back in April, launched a course that those who are maybe interested in getting into DevOps might be interested in. You want to talk a little bit about DevOps essentials there?
Yeah, so if you're new to DevOps, if you're not quite sure what it is, or you don't know what it really looks like in practice, the DevOps Essentials course is a great sort of short introduction to DevOps. It will kind of introduce you to the cultural aspects of DevOps. And what that course really focuses on is explaining the relationship between DevOps culture and DevOps tools, because there's a lot of confusion around that. And that course kind of seeks to clarify that so you have a good foundation to understand why are all these tools doing what they do? Why is Kubernetes the way it is? Why do we want Chef? Why do we want Jenkins? That course really kind of gives you a lot of the why behind a lot of these tools that you can learn.
Also a pretty cool hands-on lab. That's a complete pipeline that deploys out as part of that. And what I just realized is we had the live show on for 10:15 in the calendar, but that was for us to start talking. It ended up launching the live show a little bit early. So we had about 30 to 40 people just join in the past couple minutes. So I'm going to take 10 seconds to go back one and hit up our first announcement so everybody is aware of that. And our first announcement was by Travis, and that was our LPI DevOps Tools Engineer Certification from the Linux Professional Institute. Again, that was launched in May. Just 3 months later, we have the updates for that. Built a course that has all of our high-level standards. Travis did an amazing job in the hands-on labs. And this just covers almost literally everything from a tooling standpoint and some principle standpoint, I believe, as well. So let's go ahead and, go ahead.
I said also includes the kitchen sink.
Oh, from Chef.
No, I'm making a joke. No, it includes everything.
Oh, the kitchen sink.
Kitchen sink, yeah.
Okay. Everything and the kitchen sink. I haven't heard that analogy. There's literally a kitchen sink, if I recall. And it's been a little bit since I've done Chef, Nathan, but isn't there a kitchen sink thing? It's like
it's called Test Kitchen. That's right. Yep.
So, I mean, I'm in the kitchen with it, right? I'm close, I guess.
I mean, once you call it Chef, you got to just run with that metaphor.
You're going to think I'm crazy. I never connected those two. Never connected the two for some reason. All right, let's keep going before I throw myself under the bus a little bit more here. So let's see here. Rob, you're a new Linux Academy course author, and kind of one of the first things that you did was come in and update the LPIC 201 and 202 courses. And we like making sure that we maintain certification standards. And specifically with LPI, they don't always have to update everything in there. They add or remove a few things. And so if it doesn't change the majority of the scope of the certification, we also stay on top of that. But do you want to talk a little bit about this, Rob?
Sure. So Terry did such an excellent job with the original LPIC 2 version 201 and 202 that I didn't have to do a whole lot, but it was still a decent amount of work to update from their version 4 to the version 4.5 requirements. I added a video on Civ, OpenVPN, the IP tools that have been replacing ifconfig for the past, I don't know, decade or so that it's been deprecated. A little bit of the difference between NFS v3 and 4, and just a few other things to go a little bit more in depth than what Terry originally had to cover the stuff that LPIC wants on their 4.5 version.
So, Rob, you were just recently in town at our Engineer and Training Architect Summit. Now, this summit is where we brought in all of our engineers and architects, and we learned a lot. We developed relationships. But you recently, just there, like it was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, did something while you were there. Do you want to tell us or show us a little bit about it and maybe why?
I don't know what you're talking about, Anthony. I'm sorry. So, hang on. I have to move a lot to show it.
That looks like a Pinehead the Penguin tattoo to me.
It is a Pinehead the Penguin tattoo. And I got it mostly because I really believe in the way that the Linux Academy works with the community and drives the community. As you know, the community is the most important thing. Our customers are the most important thing to try and invest in, right? Making sure that everybody, the one mission statement or however you wanted to word it, Anthony, I don't remember.
Mission values.
Mission value that really speaks to me is changing the world by changing people's lives. And I really believe that, you know, looking at some of the testimonials that I've seen since I started here about how people worked at a bank knew next to nothing about, you know, Amazon or technology in general, and decided, you know, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to start over and learn, get this new career. And then going through Linux Academy, poof, they have all the training and the knowledge that they need to get a solid job.
So many awesome stories with that. And I got to tell you, like, I'm exceptionally humbled by this, to be honest with you. I'm a little jealous that you're the first person with a Pinehead the Penguin tattoo. I don't have
I told you you could have come to join me that night, man.
I didn't think you were actually going to go through it. I didn't know that. I didn't think it was going to happen. And you come back the next day with a Pinehead the Penguin tattoo, which is awesome. And now what's funny is I think we have a lot of people who are actually also about to go get a Pinehead the Penguin tattoo. But you know what really resonates the most with me is the why behind why you did it. You know, it's Linux Academy as a company, the reason I did it, but the culture and the values behind it is what we believe in, right? Helping
exactly
the community, changing lives, and that type of stuff. And that, you know, as a company, and that's what I'm really proud of from our company is our 5 mission values. Our company got together and they chose that. They voted on that. What you'll notice is, you know, I'll come back and talk about it in a minute, but we will talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about what it says about our staff on what they came up with and what it doesn't say about the staff as well. But real quick, while we are doing that, is Keith on with us today? Keith, are you there?
Yeah, I think I beat you onto the call, to be honest with you.
Oh, man, I didn't see you on there. So obviously we're launching Chef stuff today. Keith, do you want to take over?
Sure. So this is my first chef course, and we went back and we're revamping the basic chef fluency badge course, which is one that you did, unfortunately for me, because I'm going to inevitably get ratings that are like, Anthony did it better, or why isn't Anthony doing it? But hopefully people can bear with me going through this. And the big changes that we have in this now are that our actual way of creating courses has changed quite a bit since the original one was built. So now we have some learning activities to go through and really get you working with separate nodes. You're having a workstation, a chef server, and then something to actually deploy on for a limited period of time, where it's kind of dropping you into an environment. Because the best thing you can do to learn this, like Nathen said, is just get your hands dirty. So that's really what this course is about. And the actual exam has been updated too. So there is a hands-on component to it in a way. There are a few times you have to actually run some commands or actually get some information from a chef server that you're working with to actually answer a multiple choice question. And the exam is great. It's also, you have access to the documentation while you're doing it, which is a huge change, because in the real world, you're not going to have to memorize the docs for everything. You will look it up and answer things accordingly. So I try to emphasize learning how to read the documentation and get the most out of really growing into working with Chef.
Nathen, it sounds like you want to give away a voucher.
Absolutely. We've seen some questions come through in the live chat, and we're going to follow up with everyone that's asked a question and make sure that you get a voucher for a free certification exam. Of course, it's not free certification. It is a free voucher to take the certification test. And I'm sure that you'll pass it, especially if you're going for the Chef Basic Fluency and have completed this new course. It's really awesome, and it's great to see. Look, Anthony, there's kitchen right there on the list on bullet point number 4. So we threw in the kitchen sink here for you into this Basic Fluency course. It's a really great course. I think, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to put your hands on the technology and run through some of this stuff. And it's really cool. One of the strengths of the Chef community and the Chef tooling is around the testing, the validation that your automation is doing exactly what you expect. And so we have tools that are incorporated into that course, like Test Kitchen, like Chef Spec, and then my favorite of them all, InSpec. InSpec is absolutely awesome. I find that no matter who I talk to, when they're just getting started with automation, they learn very quickly that one of the best things about automation, and frankly, it doesn't matter if you're doing it with Chef or Ansible or any other tool, but one of the best things about automation is you can write a line of code, put that code into your version control system, deploy that code out to production, and it changes everything about your infrastructure. And one of the worst things about automation is you can write a line of code, put that code into your version control system, put it out into production, and it changes everything about your infrastructure. So you get scared because, is this change going to do exactly what I expect it to do or not? And that's where something like InSpec comes in, that can continually validate that your infrastructure is in exactly the state that you want. You can use InSpec in conjunction with Test Kitchen to make sure that the changes you're making are going to do exactly what you want. So it's really cool to see that baked right into the course, pardon the pun. And I'm super excited about this. So keep those questions coming. Keep those comments about Chef coming in the chat. We're going to give away vouchers to everyone that mentions it.
Yeah. And one of the things is, and what I really, really liked about Chef is when I first started doing it, is that testing component, because, you talk about deploying configuration state management among your environment. You can do it with cloud. You can do it with your Linux machines, your Docker containers. But what was really cool is that testing component. And InSpec has a lot that has to do with compliance, and Chef Spec has a lot of regular test component to it. But basically, it tests the desired state of your configuration. So as you're making a bunch of change and updates, you want to make sure that one of your changes doesn't break something else, and that your infrastructure is in the state that you define. So you create those tests, which ensure it's in that state, and it goes through this pipeline. So it brings that, a lot of times people think of DevOps as, I'm going to deploy out somebody else's code for an application where when you look at it, you can apply all the same principles, the pipeline, the testing, all of those things to your infrastructure management as well, which allows it to scale. It reduces downtime. It increases resiliency, and it also helps with compliance, specifically with inspect, because that has a lot of compliance in it, if I recall correctly, doesn't it, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the things that I always loved about automating infrastructure was the speed with which we could move, the ability to change things. And one of the things I always hated was when the auditors came in the building and asked us to prove what was going on with our infrastructure. It felt like for 2 weeks we were answering questions from the auditors and not getting any real work done. So, you know, we took the learnings of Chef and automation and built those into Inspect so that you can actually run automated audits all the time on your infrastructure and get that auditor's questions answered lickety split. It's really, really awesome.
So big questions that have come through. One, it says, good to see Linux Academy is adding chef courses. We've had chef courses. We're adding more chef courses. This is actually a refresh of an existing one that meets all of the new certification vouchers. But real quick, before we move forward, let's touch one more time, because there's been some questions about, do I need to learn programming and do I need to know Python to learn Chef? Nathan, do you want to go that one more time?
Yeah, for sure. Look, you don't need to know any programming. If you're doing any sort of system administration, if you're working with computers, you've had hands-on, you've got enough capability there, no doubt. What you need is the confidence to go through some of these courses, put your hands on the keyboard, and make this thing work. It's gonna, like, look, you're gonna run into some challenges from time to time. That's how we learn. So take those challenges, figure out what you need to do, and implement that. It's awesome. The question about Python, you certainly don't need to learn any Python to write Chef, because Chef is all based in Ruby. But again, don't let the Ruby scare you. There's nothing to be afraid of here. Ruby is a great language. I know many people, in fact, Aaron, who has commented in the live chat, has mentioned that he actually learned programming by starting with Chef. So no pre-existing programming experience, came to Chef, picked it up there, has learned Ruby along the way without even really necessarily thinking about it.
And absolutely, for those asking, is this the best way to get started with Chef? Absolutely. It's going to take you from 0 to basic Chef fluency, and keep going to do that. And he's got some good comments on his Python course on there. So he's got some really good courses. Now, before we move on, I talked about our mission values. And what I want to do is I want to read them to you real quick, and I'll post them inside the channel, but it's: we support others in their mission to learn and grow. We are committed to changing the world by changing lives. We believe in the curiosity to learn, the vulnerability to try, the persistence to succeed, and the strength in community. We put our students' futures first, and we dedicate ourselves to pushing the boundaries of online learning. I did bring it up here because I wanted to make sure I got every word correctly, because these are brand new. And the thing is it's very humbling to me as a CEO and founder, because the reason we founded Linux Academy was to help others. We wanted to teach people. We have a passion for it, right? But we wanted to help others realize their dreams and career goals and everything like that through technology. Before, it was super expensive, and now we tried to take all of those, all of the components of in-person training and merge it with online self-paced training. You go to Udemy, you get a couple of videos, that's great. You get a practice exam or something, that's great. But that doesn't take the core value of hands-on learning and actual training from in-person training and merge it with online self-paced. So what we did is we set out to the company and I said, hey, help us define our mission. What is our values? And we have 113 or so people working at Linux Academy today. And this is what they came up with on their own and voted. Now, what this does not say, and I think it's very important to understand what this does not say as much as it does say, is it doesn't say that we look after the shareholders first. It does not say our goal is money. It does not say we will do anything that jeopardizes our students, right? And we actually had our VP of technology come on and say, what that means is if we do something and it somehow goes against our core values of putting the student first, it doesn't matter if it has a good return. It doesn't matter if investors are happy or anything like that. We pivot. We undo that. We never do anything to jeopardize our students, and we always put them first. And that means a lot, because that's a hard culture to build. And what's really great is the team at Linux Academy. I'm so proud of you because you're doing that. You are building that and you're living that. And Rob's got a tattoo because he believes in that. And that is just super awesome. So great job, Linux Academy team. I know most of you are watching the live stream and even a lot of you interacting with our students in here today. So I'm going to keep moving on here. Let's see what we have next. So we are announcing you, Nathen. Welcome.
All right. Thanks so much.
As everybody knows, Nathen has been joining us from Chef. We've already talked to him a little bit. He's in there answering questions inside of the YouTube chat. He's talked a little bit about VP of Community and what that means. It actually sounds quite amazing of a job. What is your next event you're going to go to, Nathen?
That's a great question. Let's see. I'm not sure the exact order, but let me give you a couple that I'll be at. I'll be at DevOps Days Raleigh. That's coming up in September. I'm going to be at the DevOps Talks conference down in Sydney. That's the end of August. And then we in the Chef world have 2 community summits coming up in October. One that's here in Seattle and one that's over in London. You can find out more about those at summit.chef.io. But this is a great chance. Look, community is near and dear to my heart. There's nothing like putting your hands on a keyboard and getting to work. But the other thing that's super important is to get together with other members of the community, share ideas, help one another, support one another. And that's what the community summits are all about. So I hope you'll be able to join us in October, either in Seattle or in London.
I did it again. I hit the button on the trivia. So real quick, outside of GitHub, where is a common place that users share cookbooks for other Chef users to use? Come on, people who have been through our Chef training. I think, well, we can't. It's NDA stuff. I think this is a valuable piece of information to know if I wanted to get certified.
It looks like we have an answer.
Chef Supermarket. That's one of the cool places to go, specifically if you're learning Chef, because one of the fun things about the Chef Supermarket is if there's a common task, whether it's deploying Nginx or Apache or clusters or HA proxy, if there's a common task, there's a 99% chance somebody's already written the cookbooks for it. And you could take that and expand off of it. You can include that cookbook and build additional cookbooks on top of it or recipes to make it work. And so it really builds you a big foundation. So you could say, hey, I want to deploy this for my environment, and it'll do most of the work for you.
Yeah, it's a great resource for sure. And one of the most important things there, Anthony, is to remember we shouldn't take any software off of the internet and run it in production to see what happens. We should definitely read that software and understand what it's doing beforehand. And speaking of reading that software, look, the best way to become a better cookbook developer is to read more cookbooks. You can learn patterns from the community. You can see what other folks are doing, things that maybe work well for you, maybe things that you want to avoid. It's great to have this as a resource, the supermarket, because you can find all of that stuff there. Now, you can also find inspec profiles on the supermarket as well if you go to the tools and plugins section.
What could possibly go wrong just by taking random software and deploying it in production?
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably fine.
You could use the Linux Academy cloud servers because you could just throw those away.
Exactly.
It's good for learning. I love it too. The inspec, again, it just excites me for some reason. All right, so it is the Chef Supermarket. Let's go ahead and move on to our next announcement. And Terry Cox is going to come on the screen to talk about Azure Concepts.
Hi, everybody. Terry. So one of the things that we were really pushing very hard this quarter is any of our Azure content. As most of you who have been students for any time know, Azure has had a number of updates that were released in October and December of last year. We've been trying to get our hands around and get content out while scaling the team in order to do so. So Azure Concepts is really that entry level to Azure. It talks a lot about Azure as a service around cloud. So if you're unfamiliar with cloud technology, and certainly if you're unfamiliar with Azure, it ties those together from a conceptual level and takes you through the core services, how they work, what's specific to Azure, and what those things mean. And at the end, you've got some study materials, the quizzes that you're used to from us, as well as the flashcards. But this is really meant to be consumed in just a couple of hours to get you ready so that you can dive into the Azure community and the courses that we offer. In addition, this happens to be one of the first opportunities for us to create an Azure lab. And labs are hard, guys, especially in order to give you anything meaningful with the kind of real hands-on access that you get rather than something simulated. So as we built Azure, or AWS, as we built Linux and DevOps, we have those components. And this is the first course that we've got an opportunity. We're putting some finishing touches on the learning activity or the lab that's with this, but it will be released this week. It's ready to go, minus a few minor issues that we're making sure that everything runs really cleanly for you. But the great thing about this is you'll get an idea of how these labs are going to work in our Azure environments, and we're going to be working really hard, as you'll hear more about, in using Azure labs throughout all of our certification courses for Microsoft.
Just keep talking.
Keep talking? All right.
People want Terry.
Okay.
People want Terry.
All right, so we'll go right on to the next course. This is Microsoft Exam 7532, Implementing Azure Solutions Certification. This is by a new training architect, speaking of scaling the Azure team, it's by Michael Haidt. So Michael, would you kind of give us an overview of who this course is for, when it was updated, et cetera?
Well, we've just got done updating the actual content in the course. Now it's designed to cover the 7532 Microsoft Developing Microsoft Azure Solutions exam. So the target of that really is for people who want to learn to design and program, as well as implement and automate and monitor Microsoft Azure solutions. So this course has, as you can see here on the display here, the 4 major areas which focus pretty much on what the exam covers, but there's a number of lessons, actually sections of the course. There's a lot of lessons around starting out with deploying virtual machines and managing the scalability of those, as well as deploying applications to those virtual machines. We also look at the storage and data strategy and cover the concepts in there such as, files and blobs and table data storage that's in Azure, but also get into things like Azure SQL, Cosmos DB, using the SQL Surface API, a little bit around Azure Search. We then also look at some of the things around identity and application and network services part of the course. So I'll show you how to set up and configure things such as B2B and B2C connectivity with Azure Active Directory and federated identity between your applications, integrating things with Service Bus and doing various types of messaging with inside of that. And then finally, the last section has most of kind of what I'd call the PaaS-oriented stuff that's in Azure, so compute, web, and mobile services as they call that section. But during that, I'll show you how to set up web applications in Visual Studio, create app services in the cloud, deploy out those applications into those app services. We also look at using Service Fabric for a little bit, as well as doing API applications that build REST applications and their deployment. What else is in there that's interesting? Go over API management and how to implement that. And I also have a very nice section in there on DevOps, where we build full CI/CD pipelines, both from GitHub to Azure, right out to Azure, and also doing that with VSTS. And then one of the newer things that have been added as of March of 2018 is doing work with Azure Kubernetes service. So I have a full set of things in there showing how to get that up and running and deploying containers into that and running that stuff.
So I think one of the things Michael's done a really good job of covering the major sections, but I think he's being a little humble when he says there's a few things within it. So one of the things to keep in mind is this is a huge undertaking. Yeah. 7532 is a very broad and in some cases a very deep course. So in addition to these 4 major sections, there's over 120 videos that give you the depth and breadth that you need across all of these.
Yeah, I was just trying to count it. I think there's 10, 20, 24. There's probably around 30 sections to the course, and each of those have like 3 to 14 videos.
So when you're following along with Michael, one of the things that he's done is there's a GitHub repository that has all the source code that he uses throughout this in implementing. So one of the comments is that this is for developers. Well, it kind of is for developers, but it's development and implementation. And actually, I think the breadth of these Microsoft certifications we're going to talk about in a little bit is being addressed by Microsoft and trying to break things up just a little bit more. But we'll get to that here in just a bit. In addition to the quizzes that you see, all of the videos, Azure Labs will be coming to this, but we've got the interactive diagram that you've come to expect on our cloud courses that makes a great reference guide and follow-along guide for the course that he references in each of the sections that has a lot of information for you. In addition, you've got the flashcards. There's a study guide coming. This is a pretty big exam in terms of the number of things that you need to know. And Michael's worked really hard over the past, and he's only been here since the end of March. Actually started working on this course after being onboarded in April, and here it is. We've released it here just 3.5 months later. So again, another example of how we really try to get everybody involved just as quickly as possible. And he did a really good job on this course.
Yeah, and let me just close one thing on like the programming side versus admin. There's a lot of both in this. A lot of the programming is fairly straightforward with C#. I show you how to set up, even if you want to, a Visual Studio system in Azure that you can spin up in a few minutes and go do that. Like Terry said, I've got probably a GitHub repository with, I think, like 20 some solutions in it, which are basically completed. So you can go in and get those and maybe uncomment some code here and there and do it. But a lot of what we end up doing with code is understanding some of the coding patterns that will be asked for on the exam. But a lot of the stuff, most of the things really get into, you know, how do I deploy this out into Azure, into like app services or into a container, you know, orchestrator, different types of things like that. So there's a lot of how to manage that process. And even with like the DevOps one was one of my favorite sections to put in there. And that's really been beefed up as of March 2018 by Microsoft to build those things where you'll be able to see checking in code from Visual Studio and it goes straight through the STS and build and directly into the like website within, you know, 30 seconds, a minute, something like that. Yeah, it's really kind of neat. So.
Well, great. So everybody should definitely check out the 7532. It does include all the updates from October of last year, as well as a few updates that Michael was fortunate in his development of the syllabus to catch in March. So it's the absolute latest version of the objectives that you can expect for 7532 across the board. So Azure Labs, one of the things that we're going to be doing throughout the remainder of the year is we're going to be adding the labs into all of the Azure courses that we're releasing. As I indicated earlier, we've got the Azure Labs down. We're dotting some I's and crossing some T's. We're releasing the first one with Azure Concepts this week, and we will be going back and adding them to 7532. And as you'll see, several of the other items that we're working on. So they are coming. We've got them figured out, and they'll be the same type of system that you're used to on Linux, DevOps, and AWS.
Yeah, and our lab services team is architecting a new way of deploying the labs, because one of the problems is that Azure was a bit slow to deploy something. So a lab could take 15 to 20 minutes to start, and quite frankly, sometimes you only have 15 to 20 minutes to learn. So one of the things we do at Linux Academy is we innovate. So our lab services team has been working pretty hard on coming up with something that they call Project Sloth, that I'm not supposed to talk about, but it's basically instant labs where you'll be able to just click a button, and even though it has a deployed out environment, even though it should technically take time to deploy all that out in a real environment, for the student, it's going to be done and ready to go. And so that's taken a lot of effort, and that's where we slowed down a little bit on that. Number one, because we've hired an entirely new Azure team. And, you know, kudos to you Azure course authors, because basically you went in your first 3 months where you should have an onboarding time period, you went in and built a giant course to meet Microsoft standards that actually changed several times that you had to keep updated. because they did update. I think they had updates in April or a little bit after April and some in May that we had to take into account. So this is the latest version up to date. Let's hit the next course, but why don't you stay, because we got to talk about some of the new Azure certs that have come out, and you're playing for that as well. Yep. So let's go ahead and go here, and I'm going to let Terry take it from here. Again, he's doing a great job. People want Terry. People are going to get Terry.
All right. So for exam 7533, this is implementing the Microsoft Azure Infrastructure Solutions. So again, this received updates in October and December, and we've reflected those updates now in this particular certification refresh. So this covers mainly things in the infrastructure, managing identities, storage strategies, and it also has the interactive diagram. And this interactive diagram is a great companion because it has that end state architecture where throughout the course, we're referring to it as we build individual components. And it's got a great study guide and all the quizzes, and then of course the ending exam. So 7533 is very focused on infrastructure solutions, whereas 7532 is kind of a split focus between development and implementation. Now, when we talk about the big three certifications in the Azure space, 7535 is definitely one of them. Unfortunately, we had one of the Azure authors leave in the middle of the quarter, and Microsoft threw us a curveball, and they announced that they're breaking out some certifications into these three new ones, AZR 100, 101, and 102. Now, it looks like Microsoft has hinted at 533 being that starting point for these three certifications. And what I mean by that, 100 and 101 are designed for infrastructure and deployment, whereas 101 is integration and security. And they're breaking out much of the functionality or the domains of expertise that Azure administrators would need to be familiar with into those two certification exams. 102 is actually called the Azure Administrator Certification Transition Exam. So that's actually meant for if you've already passed the 7533, in order to augment your Azure administration skills and prepare for their new certification path, they recommend that you take that particular certification. So 533 is expected to be replaced. Whether they'll announce the full replacement at Ignite or not, nobody knows, of course. 532 is speculated to be replaced by as yet to be released exams. And 535 is rumored to be replaced by the continuation of 103 and 104, but nothing has been confirmed. We're on top of all of that as all of the announcements are made. And for 100, 101, and 102, we've already got plans in motion to cover those going forward. We'll refocus on 535 as we have a better understanding of how those three exams impact 535 and how we want to approach that. So our intention is to cover all of the announced exams that are specific to Azure and then have the Azure Labs launched with those. So Azure continues to be a challenging but important domain for us, and we're going to focus on it as much as we can. And the Azure team has really had to come in and hit the ground running and get some really tough and long certifications going.
That change.
The change, no differently than AWS is for anybody who's familiar with AWS. So,
all right, what else do we got? Do we have one more? We got another one. We got another course that we're launching. All right, let's go on and let's just get to the meat and potatoes here. Eric Frick, tell us a little bit about the CompTIA Cloud Essentials complete rebuild that you just got done making. Before we jump in real quick, we already have the CompTIA Cloud Essentials. We've refreshed it totally, and here's a new version of it. So Eric, go ahead and take over.
So what we did is we integrated some of the changes that the way Linux Academy does classes now. So we integrated the interactive course diagram and completely redid the content from top to bottom in this class. So this class is great for somebody just starting off with cloud computing and really wants to get a good start and understand the terminology and some of the trade-offs you get with cloud computing. I think it's also a great spot for some managers and companies that are looking to transition to cloud computing, and what are some of the trade-offs that they can expect, as an organization when they move into the cloud.
So this is really great. And I believe you are also going to work on the Cloud Plus next, but I just clicked the button. So we'll just drive forward and go through on a quick Azure trivia. and then we'll come back to it. But Microsoft Azure Cloud Service is typically categorized as this type of service. And Eric, and so you are, I believe, Eric, you're working on that Cloud Plus next, aren't you?
Right. And so that'll be a new class for us, and just starting in on that. We just finished up the Cloud Essentials class. And, I think both these certifications are really great. One of the, I think, difficulties is when somebody wants to get started with cloud computing, what do you start with? And I think both of these classes are really great for somebody who wants to understand the concepts from a very high level. And I think they'd be important for a large organization that has a lot of IT procedures, ITIL procedures, management procedures in place as that company transitions to cloud computing. What can they expect, from a high level? And for a lot of organizations, the transition goes great to the cloud. They're building like crazy, and then they get their first bill and then they have problems. So these classes address some of those conceptual things of trade-offs of, you get the elasticity of cloud computing, but you also have the unpredictability of cost. And so from a management standpoint, how do you handle some of those issues? So I think both of these classes together will be a great on-road for people to get started with cloud computing.
Thank you, Eric. And it looks like the first person to get the answer was, who was it, Terry? Neil. Neil was the first person to get that. So congrats, Neil. And real quick, Terry did want to clarify that we are doing the 75-35. Now understand, Microsoft has 3 new Azure exam announcements. We also are doing those, and we'll make the 75-35 available. I think it's technically in active development right now. It's a little bit behind schedule due to the personnel changing and building up the Azure team, which happens. But we're continually doing that. And in fact, Chad's in there. He's a new member of the Azure team. And I believe we're getting ready to potentially add, I'm looking at Terry to correct me, 2 more people to our Azure team, knocking on wood right now. And if you are interested in Azure as well, please know that we're always hiring great Azure people, great chef people. Actually, we, and Keith, we are hiring for chef right now, aren't we?
Yeah. Am I allowed to talk about this?
Go for it.
Okay, so yeah, I'm currently the one doing the chef content. And as much as I like chef, I have a development background. And currently we don't really cover a lot of development stuff. So if I can find somebody else to teach chef content, then I can move off and teach more development content if that's what the community wants to see. If not, I would more than be happy to stick around and work on chef content because there's plenty of it and it's changing, and I'm really enjoying myself.
So what Keith just said, if you want more Python courses, help him find some chef people to take over on it.
Or Go or any of the other, languages that are pretty cool out there. There are a million possible development courses that I could teach, and I would be excited to do that if given the opportunity.
There is, and we don't typically talk about kind of our future stuff as we don't, as we look at strategy and what it takes to build up. But what I would say is it's probably reasonable to expect that you see us dive into development over the next 12 months. It's probably also reasonable to expect that we do it differently. There's plenty of places out there that teach you intro development courses, and we don't aim to reinvent the wheel. We aim to solve a problem that doesn't exist for our that's not solved for our community. So Nathan, if you know anybody or in your endeavors, we do, we'll get you a little referral fee in there if you want to hook us up with anybody that think you might be good chef course author. We probably hired 2 of them right now, actually.
All right, there you go. Well, I'm sure there's someone that's out there listening who's been through some great courses and has done some chef stuff and would be happy to look into doing that.
Keith, Audrey says that you have nights and weekends that you can do the Python courses on.
Yeah, I typically write Elixir in my nights and weekends, so that's not going to work out.
He's like, no thanks. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the questions. We've had, Terry, don't give Anthony any ideas. Let's go ahead and pull in some questions as we do a recap, and what we'll do is we'll circle back around, and we'll go through, do some questions. Don't forget, we have Nathen Harvey, VP of Chef Community, or VP of Community at Chef. We have our DevOps and Azure course authors on here. And, we have somebody requesting more DevSecOps. Terry just smiled with an evil smile. Perhaps you should continue just staying a member of Linux Academy would probably be a a way of doing that. So, yeah.
I got somebody coming next week to address that.
We have a DevSecOps person coming in specifically for that type of content, is what Terry just announced. So as you're going through and looking at those questions, I'll let Terry look at the questions and everybody else as well. If you have one you want to address, speak up. But I'm going to go through and do the recap. And so this month, we launched a lot of stuff. We promised 150 different training items, individual learning activities that are independently consumable. We delivered, I think our final number is over 250. So great job, team. That's huge. So week 1, we launched the Elasticsearch Deep Dive, implementing a full CI/CD pipeline, SaltStack certified engineer, Linux and LPIC system administrator for the new objectives coming out in September. The RHCSA Red Hat certified specialist in virtualization, the Red Hat certified specialist in Ansible automation. These 2 courses completed our learning path and complete set of certificate of expertise from Red Hat in order to achieve the Red Hat certified architect, highly coveted certification there. Linux Academy RHCSA performance-based practice exam found within the Red Hat certified system administrator course. OpenStack Foundation certified OpenStack administrator based off of the new exam objectives for the new exam launching, I believe, in August. Then we launched AWS Lambda Deep Dive, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate level, AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional level. Then we launched performance-based hands-on challenges that are IAM groups and roles, monitoring infrastructure with CloudWatch, securing traffic with the web application firewall, and auditing AWS infrastructure for security. Then we followed it up by launching the AWS Certified Security Specialist Quest, which includes all of our hands-on learning activities. And we will be dropping the first set of videos, or launching the first set of videos, the first couple sections of the actual course this week. Our Docker Containers Beginner Quest is now available. Travis, it seems like you're probably working on that intermediate quest. And then we launched the Google Cloud Platform Professional Data Engineer Certification, Google Cloud Essentials, and one that is not on here, the new Google Cloud, I forgot the title of it, certification. There's 3 Google Cloud certifications. All 3 are available at Linux Academy for training. And then we also launched, this was a really good code episode, Christoph, but it was going from a monolith app to microservices and building engineering teams. And then today, we launched and announced LPOps. There's so much stuff, I can't even keep up with it. LPI DevOps Tools Engineer Certification, Certified Jenkins Engineer updates to make sure that you are successful in the current edition of the exam. LPIC 2 Linux Engineer Exam 101, Exam 201 and 202 updates for the new exam objectives. Basics Chef Fluency Badge, and the VP of Community at Chef has given away some vouchers for the exam if you are asking questions inside of the community. Then we launched Implementing Microsoft Azure Infrastructure Solutions Exam 7533. Then we launched Azure Concepts. And then we launched Azure Exam 7532. And then we launched the CompTIA Cloud Essentials Certification Prep Course Rebuild. And we have more coming. So join us. We're going to go into questions. It does, Phil. It does have me tongue-tied. Next month in August, you will see a lot of Terry Cox and Thomas Hazlitt and me, and we will be launching hands-on quests and also doing some office hours that you can interact with us. The details will go on the site. Most likely you'll see it on Fridays or randomly throughout this week. We'll probably bring on some training architects who would like to join us. Seriously, Phil, it really does. I have so much content. I can't, so many different words just went through and out of my head. It's hard to keep up with it. And we're getting ready to get to all the questions. But for that 250 plus, look at all the stuff that we launched. What's really great about the hands-on learning activities is they are independently consumable micro courses. You basically can go in and you can learn that concept. Let's say you've already got your certification, but you are inside of your job and you are tasked to do something that you completely forgot how to do, go and deploy out the environment, follow the training, practice in that environment that we have, and then go do it yourselves. So that micro-learning is going to be huge for your continuous education. And at Linux Academy, you know we believe in hands-on learning. That's why we do everything with interactive diagrams and hands-on labs. So here's our other set of launches. We also launched several quests, challenges, scale your code episodes, and what everybody's really here for, everybody else but me, but what you really want from me is maybe who won this. This is that Ansel. So lots of giveaways on the live show. We've given away a lot of swag. Nathen, very gracious of you. Really, really appreciate you coming on and giving away a bunch of vouchers with us today for Chef, helping talk a little bit about Chef, what it's like being a VP of community. What's really cool, and the thing I I really admire about Chef as a company is the fact that they take those kind of DevOps principles and the culture and they live it, but they take the open source culture and principles and they live it as well and really contribute and be involved in the community. And it says a lot, you being here today, answering questions and doing that. And I really appreciate that. Thanks again for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to see, Linux Academy itself has a great thriving community really out there doing some of the same things we are, helping people get better at exactly what they want to do. So it's really great to be a part of that. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And before we announce, David had a question. Any plans for courses on Grafana and Prometheus? I would say I think Travis's intermediate Docker quest will cover that. And I already think the full CI/CD pipeline also covers some Prometheus. And I also think some of that is covered in the LPI DevOps certification as well. So there's lots of coverage for it. We probably will end up doing it. And here we go. Philip Smith. You have won an Ansel, sir. An Ansel 1, top of the line.
Holy moly.
Ansel 1. Toy to play with at home. I have one more slide. I want you all to bear with me. Believe it or not, I nixed like 8 of them before we started. So, real quick. On August 1st, we're rotating out our community courses again. Every month, we're dropping high-level courses. Every quarter, we're going to keep courses in there. I say dropping, I say launching, making it available for 30 days or so. Help me spread the word that we are making our AWS IM, our Identity and Access Management Deep Dive, our NGINX Deep Dive, our Google Cloud Essentials, our Google Cloud Security Essentials, Elasticsearch Deep Dive, and the Introduction to AWS Identity and Access Management performance-based hands-on learning activity lab. All available for free within the community for the next 30 days. Help us spread that word. As always, join us for our Women in Tech webinar, where we have our own Amy working with Elaine Marino, talking about inspired inclusion. And Amy, if you don't know, is on our show launching her OpenStack course the first week of this month and is hugely involved in the community and has helped several of our own authors. I believe L Squared originally got into some of this and worked with Amy previously, and Amy helped get her in there and work inside of there. So Amy's really involved in the community and has helped bring and connect other training architects at Linux Academy. So we are really, really grateful for that. Last trivia question. I know we have a lot of questions. I just skipped by it because I want people to send it all in there. Last trivia, DevOps trivia. What is the practice of getting code changes into the hands of customers quickly, frequently, and safely? And as Nathen and I talked about, it is pulling code directly from GitHub stuff and just launching it immediately. And we call that safe deployment. Is that right?
I would call that YOLO ops. just an idea for branding's sake.
YOLO apps. Love it. Do we have the answer in there yet? Oh my goodness. Yeah. CD, continuous delivery. I don't know who got it. I know Winnie's watching this.
First one, Neil already wants it. So, Raj.
All right, let's take some questions. We'll go ahead and wrap up the official show. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a crazy month. We're going to have follow-up launches next month of a lot of quests that we will be launching. but we had some huge launches. We lived up to the 150 and did over 250, and that's huge. So I'm going to do the official end of the show right here, and we're going to sit here and hang around for a minute or two and answer questions. But thanks for joining us at Linux Academy. Nathen, thanks for joining us from Chef as VP of Community and interacting. And thanks for all the contributions. And thanks, Chef, for actually working with Linux Academy and helping us make sure that we're building quality content for the Chef exam. I know that's highly important for everybody. It's highly important that we meet standards to help people train and be able to perform these tasks inside of live production environments that do indeed make sure that you don't deploy random code in and out of there. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. All right, so we'll just answer a few questions for everybody.
As in, Anthony will be on.
How do I not already own that? It's now a race. The 20-second delay is going to be the only reason that I get it. Yeah. If you guys want to hop on, if there's any questions in there, feel free to just respond. There's a lot going on. Terry, do you want to come to some of the questions? YOLO Ops is taken.
No way.
Somebody owns YOLOOps.com. It's for sale for $480.
Hey, squatter price, that's actually pretty good. So
yeah, that is pretty cheap considering squatting prices can be like around $1,000 for a domain.
Terry, ETA for $75.35.
So this quarter, but I need to balance that against the new AZR exams and make sure that we're doing the right version. Because I don't know if there's going to be any updates on it in the short term. So this quarter.
It is this quarter. Garish, yes, we have the OpenStack certification from Red Hat. That's already out there. And I think Triva is working on OpenShift on OpenStack this quarter. But yeah, absolutely. We already have lots of OpenStack. I think we are working on a networking course.
Yep.
Any plans for a PostgreSQL course upgrade?
The course needs a refresh from version 9.4. It's not on our immediate roadmap, but I would, if they want to see that, I'd point to the AHA board.
Yeah, go to the AHA board. What's funny is we tried pulling that, and then we had a whole bunch of people that said, no, I specifically need that version course. Please leave that open. So it's funny kind of how you look at making sure your content's updated. You forget there's a lot of legacy out there that still has to be supported. A lot of legacy. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Hey, guys, great job. Thanks for coming in, Nathen. You know, we'll connect afterwards for that stuff to help connect with everybody. How are we doing that voucher stuff?
Yeah, so I have an email into Chaz. If y'all can give us contact information for the people that ask questions or mention Chef, Brian Turner will make sure that they all get vouchers.
So since we're still live streaming, if you got all that, make sure that before we close out that chat, everybody who asked questions and mentioned Chef inside of there, grab their contact information, and we'll take a screenshot of the chat. Should be archived, and we'll get you all connected. Thanks and compliments to Nathen at Chef for those vouchers. That's really cool. That's a lot of vouchers.
That's cool, man. It was a lot of fun coming on the show. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We hope to do it again in our next announcements, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see you around there. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Coursework.
What's that?
Keep up the great coursework. That's super awesome for the whole community, man.
Thanks. And Keith's done an amazing job on that too. So I know you're working on what's next, the Extending Chef Cookbook you're working on?
Yes, the Extending Chef Badge. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to say it, so I was just kind of being snarky to people in chat to kind of give it away. But yeah, now that the cat's out of the bag, that's the current course I'm working on.
Awesome.
Well, with our new processes, we've been able to, the kind of new way of building content with all the standards and how we build it and whatnot, we've been able to consistently deliver. And that's kudos to the training architect team, because that's been amazing. And so I think it's good now that we'll start talking a little bit more about what we're doing. In fact, we got a pretty big announcement. That's an internal secret right now. A pretty big announcement that's actually going to work with our course authors to talk more about what we're doing. But we still have some things that have to get buttoned up. So it's good stuff. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the live show, and we'll see you next time.